G'day, course, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. I've lost count. So if you're counting, hopefully you know what the number is. I'm sure it's 150 something. And we've got Tanya back again. Tanya, welcome back. We've missed you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been weird being away from the podcast, but I'm excited to be back on after a week or two away. Hmm.
Yeah, what's been a learning that you've had over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think my biggest learning over the last couple of weeks as I go through another, I guess, transition period for myself is just learning to be comfortable in the unknown. I think, when you finish high school and then you either go into the workforce or you go into, further studies and then again after those further studies, I think it's just learning to be all right in that unknown period and to just sit with it sometimes. I think, probably since the end of high school and even after university, I think I always thought I knew what I was planning to do. And with this transitions period, there's been a little bit of uncertainty, but I think it's been a learning for me to just be all right with that uncertainty. There doesn't have to be a time point on it. There doesn't have to be a point at which, things start to change again. So I think it's just been learning to, be comfortable with that uncertainty that I've had over the last, I think, couple of months.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is nobody actually knows what's happening in life. We all have a plan and then life goes, ha, you and your plans, get out the window, and boom, it just goes out the window. So it's being okay to go, okay. Sometimes I have no control. I can only control what I can control, which is very hard for us to do as humans. We like to control things. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get through this embracing the moment there. My learning I had over the last week was actually something. I was at a workshop a few days ago and somebody said something that really has just changed me again. I posted about it on LinkedIn the other day, and the quote was basically, how can my ears help you? And just that one saying, how can my ears help you, was so profound because how many times do we just talk and not listen? And that just made me think about, hey, sometimes people just want to be heard. That's it. They don't want your opinion, they don't want your thoughts, they just want to be heard. And again, we're just automatically tuned to just give people responses, and it's okay not to give a response sometimes. So that's just got me thinking about that. And which is why we have a podcast, because podcasts are great because our ears do all the listening. And today we are very, very excited and very honored, as always, to invite on our guest. This is someone that I have been following. Not a stalker, I promise you, everybody. You always hear the same thing. I jump online and I see some people that are really interesting, really cool what they do. But it's also someone that's done some really fantastic work in some interesting spaces that are sometimes marginalized. People don't talk about those spaces there because of who knows why, and maybe we'll find out why today. But someone we want to get onto the podcast for a while. They're a busy person in so many facets of life. And we're very lucky, very privileged, and very honored to welcome to Bosses of Knowledge, Kartini Clarke. Welcome, Kartini.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. And I'm really looking forward to having a conversation today.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Kartini. For people who know nothing about you, who is Kartini today on the 29th of May?
Oh, my goodness. I wear so many different hats, but today I am in my penultimate year of law school, and I am also running the Young Neurodiversity Champions. It's gone a bit haywire because some things in my personal life have come up, and oh boy, they were tumultuous, but getting through there and about to get back on the grind. And outside of that, I am a fiance. I have two beautiful black cats, and I'm living a really exciting life, and it's something that I never used to think I would have, but my goodness, the time does heal, and I hope that's what I can bring to the table today to show that and give some hope to anyone else that is struggling.
No, I love that, and I love the way you started the conversation by saying, "Hey, today I'm this, yeah, but you have so many hats." And as you said before, it really ties in well to what Tanya said before. You had a plan, and then life happens and throws things out the plan, and you have to juggle those things. So it's a really, really fantastic little connection there. Katina, let's start your story. I guess, right now you said you're about to finish law school in a year's time, which is fantastic, exciting. But if we reverse, go back and say when you were in high school, finishing up high school,
All
would
right.
this be the story that you'd be telling yourself?
Okay, so I was, well, just a little bit before high school. I was born in Indonesia and came here as a baby. So I'm half Pakeha, half Indonesian. And I grew up in a rural settlement called Matakana. Many Aucklanders would absolutely love that place. It's where all the farmers markets are. And I went to school in Warkworth, and I must say it was quite an interesting time. But I used to absolutely love school. I would be excited every morning to go see my friends, learn new things, and all that. But by the time it got to year eight, year nine, I started getting really depressed. It might have been a combination of puberty starting, but also there were other things going on, like bullying at school. And that entailed, me being the weird kid growing up, but also in terms of being one of the only Asian kids at school. It's rural and away from the city centres where you see more diversity and all that. So I never really had anyone else around me that kind of looked like me until I started going to Model UN events down at the city and making a whole group of friends there too. And also in my teen years, it was when I was getting into politics as well. Strangely enough, I had an interest about politics since I was around 6 years old. My first election that I ever kind of took into my consciousness was the 2008 one where John Key won. And I think from there, watching the television with my father, I would soak that in and kind of get into why things are happening, but also at the same time being that young and trying to join in into your parents' political conversations. They would often say, "You're just a kid. Shh, the adults are talking." But definitely, as you grow older, you find that voice, and people are able to actually take you more seriously. Yeah, and so yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because, as you said, there's so much to unpack and go into there. The fact that you lived in a rural settlement, which right now is people would flock to go there, and it's great out there. But growing up as a young person, it's quite challenging. As you said, you don't look like other students. It's a challenge in so many different levels. And as I was doing some reading to prepare for this as well, I also read that school was challenging for you because it wasn't just the bullying that was going on, it was also your learning, the fact that you felt out of place from your learning because the way traditional schooling was going was not going well with you. And how did you feel at that point? What was going through your, not just you, but also your family at the time there?
Well, in terms of how learning was going, I, especially when I was really struggling, I would not hand in things on time, or just would get snarky comments, whether it was from teachers or other students, saying that why are you acting like this? Why are you so passionate in the things you talk about? And I'm going, well, I wish I had the words to articulate it back then, but how I learn is that I need to have in-depth discussions, and I'm always asking questions. It's not because I want to one up other students. It's not because I want to show that I'm smart or any of that. It was just simply how I learned. And struggling to have other kids that connected with me too in my same interests, like politics. I mean, I know now that there were many kids that were really interested in politics back then, but it was a really small town, and there was that disconnect there. And then we get to my family as well. We got to a point when I was in year 11 where they were just seeing how much I was struggling with my mental health and all that. From the age of 14, I was set on going to law school after a gap year and maybe running in the 2020 elections. But it got to 15, I was burned out. I was sad all the time. I was just anxious. And they said, "Kartini, would you like to leave school and just take some time out to take care of yourself?" And I was immediately like, no, 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 because that just meant it would get in the way of my dream. I didn't want to drop out, but I also did know that I needed to get better. But I don't think getting better happened until after I was outside of high school. And yeah, it was challenging at times, but also I was very hyper independent and tried to take my mental health into my own hands and all that too growing up. So it's a bit of a disconnect there in terms of family and dealing with my struggles in a way that would make sense to me and would help me. Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that there, because one thing that you did say there, which I'm going to pick up on, is that you spoke about you enjoyed learning. Learning was something that you enjoyed, but then there was a dark cloud. And I'm paraphrasing what you wrote as well. You wrote that a
Mm.
dark cloud of depression started following you around and became really challenging. And I guess for someone is who loves learning, but you're being constrained by the environment, I guess. What is it like for you as you have this enjoyment here, but it's being sucked away, the joy of learning is being sucked away because it's not the way you learn.
So the joy of learning I think it got completely killed after maybe a couple days into year 13, where a teacher pulled me aside and said, there's a teacher that has complained about you and how you interact in class. You see, they are really annoyed with the fact that you're constantly asking questions and maybe trying to hijack conversations. And she asked me the question, why are you like this? And I think in a way that was exceptionally triggering because I didn't even know why I was like that. I was almost 17. I was still trying to figure out myself, but it I felt like in a way I wasn't understood, wasn't picked up on or anything. And I just felt like I was a burden in that moment. And this is before I knew that I was neurodivergent or even had any in-depth knowledge as to how it comes out. And so from that point, you could probably catch me in the common room sleeping most of the day because I didn't want to go into a class. And I never got told the teacher's name too. So year 13, 5 NCEA classes. I skipped most except either my drama class or my maths class because I knew it wasn't my maths teacher that wasn't complaining because he was new. But that man, he is amazing. He when I was going through hard times, he would really help give me tips on other things like breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and he kind of just got me. But we come to find out a few years later that now he's also looking at the fact that he is ADHD as well. So keep in contact with him from time to time, and it just goes to show that he was kind of imparting his lived experience and maybe saw himself in me, and that's why we connected so well.
Yeah, and what I appreciate there, Kartini, is the emotion that brings up for you. It's so visible. If you're watching this, you can see the
Yeah.
emotion that brings up. And why I touched on that there is because we and Tanya and myself have touched about this in most of our podcasts that just one person in your life can make the whole difference. Just one
Oh,
person.
absolutely. They can make a world of difference, especially when I know it might sound weird, but I felt like everyone was against me at that time too. And there was just a light in the sea of adults that didn't want to understand me. And I know it's gets emotional, but I'm emotional here. But I think many other neurodivergent kids could relate to the experience of high school and being still so caught up on that experience because not being validated at such a young age can really do a number on you, and on your self-esteem and your self-worth and how you might carry yourself throughout the rest of your life. And I just really, and that's why I'm doing the things I am doing today, because I want no other kid to feel the same way I did back in school. It's horrible. I don't want to feel any other kid to feel misunderstood or feel like they don't have a place in their space of learning because they don't necessarily act in the normative way or might stand out within a crowd. And I just also want to implore educators as well that you do have the potential to raise a student and show their full potential, or you also have the ability to really, really bring them down too. And I guess I know where a depressive episode did start for me. My first one was back in year 7. I mean, you're being a rambunctious child, you're being silly with your friends and all that. And I was getting into some hijinks during the athletics day, but a teacher pulled me aside and she sent my 2 other girlfriends out, and she said, you know, you are one of those girls that are never going to get anywhere in life. You are a loser, and you are holding down those 2 other girls there with your antics and hijinks. And whoa, imagine hearing that as an 11-year-old from an authority figure and thinking, oh my goodness, am I really holding back my friends? Am I really perceived as such? And yeah, I still carried that on, I think, throughout my journey of high school. And in a way, me getting into university after my gap year and doing the whole politics thing was out of spite from those teachers that said, are you sure you want to go to uni? We don't think you'll be able to do it. Are you sure you want to go down this path? Because, you know, your behavior, it says otherwise. And I'm going, at the same time, you're putting adult standards onto a kid. And I think halfway through my degree, I kind of realized, wait, I don't want to do this out of spite anymore. I'm doing this for me. And it's really relieving when you're finally doing something for yourself, not to prove to others that you can do it. And getting more comfortable and knowing who you are helps alleviate those bad things. You go, oh, okay, I'm actually doing this for me because it makes me happy. I'm passionate about this. I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore.
And that's so interesting because a lot of people, adults included, do things because of other people. They do it because they want to wear a mask or out of spite or whatever, right? And it's a real courage of self-awareness to go, actually, I need to do this for myself, whatever that is, right? And unfortunately, sometimes societal norms say you're being selfish, inverted commas, being selfish. And it's really interesting because on one hand, they say, don't stop being selfish. On the other hand, take care of yourself. How do the two work together? They don't work together. Those two languages, you can't have. The Venn diagram is so disconnected. So it's really lovely to hear that at some point in your degree, actually, this is for me. We'll come back to your neurodiversity journey in a second, but I wanted to touch on politics because I mean, like I said, a lot of hats. Let's take a gap year. Just what the hell your whole political escapade, I guess, escapade. What is
Yeah.
that, and what is the driver for that, I guess?
So I decided I wanted to start volunteering for politics around age 15, and I was figuring out what party made the most sense to me. And at the time, after researching them, it's really odd because I don't align with the party more, but I was volunteering for the ACT Party throughout my final years of high school, and then managed to become a candidate, and that was awesome. But at the same time, after I was announced I was on there, I was also going through an insane time trying to process the past 7 years of high school and what happened to me then. And I was diagnosed with complex PTSD at the time. So it's like normal post-traumatic stress disorder, but with added symptoms and more. And there's multiple or long-standing events that happen to contribute to the condition. And unfortunately, with politics too, and if you had any other women that were also into politics coming on here, they might have spoken about the harassment that comes. And unfortunately, I was getting stalked or having my family harassed. And it was only around a month ago where the hangover of the effects of my very short stint in the candidacy kind of came to a close in terms of a stalking situation. Yeah, everything came to a close last month with the police, and I don't think I had the life experience at 18 to run, but also at the same time, in my head, I said this is great to gain more life experience, and I feel like I that period kind of forced me to speed run like 10 or 20 years of adulthood.
Yeah.
But then I was also having issues with actually understanding the new policies that were coming out at the time too, and I didn't agree. And so I stepped down halfway through the campaign, going, I'm not well right now. I can't handle the harassment, stalking, and so I just said, right, I'm going to go back to work, and so I did. I went back to my Macca's job after, and I moved to the city, and from there, it was fine. They weren't as good as my franchisees back in my hometown, but then some things started getting really haywire there. It was 2020. They hired too many people, and they were trying to cut out hours. And within then too, I still had that mindset of, wow, union's bad. And so, and that changed when they were trying to illegally cut our hours by 20%. And the union organizer, he got up there and started saying, no, this is illegal. And you know it is. And I knew that at the time too, but then I just looked around the room and saw students, migrant workers, and thought, you know what? Many people wouldn't know the rights they have as an employee, and coming to realize that the unions are there to actually help disseminate that knowledge, to help stop vulnerable people from getting exploited in their employment. I came to realize that my stance on unionism was very wrong, and I ended up signing up and join the union a couple of days later, and that kind of progressed to becoming a delegate for the store. And then I became a union organizer for a couple of years, trying to juggle that with full-time law school. Oh, don't recommend. That was my grades suffered, but I think what I do have to say is in uni as well, look, if you're doing something as epic as that, but still actually passing but not getting the best grades, employers will tend to look at that favorably, because life experience, seriously, guys, get out there and see the world. It's so much more valuable than what you just have written down on a piece of paper. And I have been telling that to other fellow law students who are going, oh, you got a C in your contract exam? Oh my gosh, are you going to get a job? And I said, well, yeah, I'm very sure I am, because at the end of the day, I think an employer will look more favorably at a student that got average grades but has awesome experience out of uni than someone who has no job, doesn't go out into the community or volunteer or even get into uni clubs, but just get straight A's.
Yeah, that's so true. I think gone are the days where, you get an A, you're gonna get a job straight away, because the world has changed quite dramatically in so many ways. And but what really got me thinking is how you went to 180. You were like, unions bad, 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 and then actually unions good. Now the reason I want to touch on that is because, again, a lot of us are married to ideas. We just think this is the right way, and even if something glaringly is so obvious, we just so rooted into ideas and we don't want to change. But
Yeah,
it's really beautiful to see how you've changed, because you can see that hey, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. It's okay to go, I'm wrong. I am wrong. And how many times do we not do that there? And if you think about the world at the moment and what's happening globally as well, a lot of things could be avoided. People just go, actually, I was wrong.
absolutely. And I don't think saying I was wrong is any form of weakness. And I do know that when I was entering into the union movement, there was a lot of apprehension towards myself, and I totally understand that because, of course, going from being very right wing to a left wing, it would get the term grifter was used a lot, and I would say, okay, I can see the perspective, but of course, behind the scenes, what people didn't realize was that change, was that learning, because of course, what they see online is what I kind of choose to post, not really the whole reality of what is Kartini. And so I don't even resent those too, but it took a while for people to go, actually, no, she is genuine, and she is actually trying to do some good, and ended up getting some respect towards the end. And I can safely say that I haven't flip-flopped since.
And it's okay if you flip-flop because life changes and people change and things change and it's really quite when I do my coaching training, I always tell people don't forget that everyone's perception is their reality. Everyone's perception.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be true, but it's their reality. And
Absolutely. And I would like to add as well that being open to different ideas and saying you're wrong is actually a hallmark of intelligence, guys. So just putting it out there, you can change if you're presented with facts and arguments that contradict what you originally thought. It's okay to say, it's okay. Switch up.
okay, to admit you're wrong, exactly. I mean, yes, and the more you do that, the more you learn, right? The more you go actually. It's really quite funny. There's another saying I like to talk about is the more you know, the less you know. It's oh, actually, whoa, whoa. So yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that there. Again, like I said, there's so much going on. I'm now going to switch to the part of your world that you champion and that is a big part of your world, and that is the world of neurodiversity, neurodivergence, and you spoke about a school you're going through this year. You weren't aware of it all, and then um, when you went to university, that was the first time that you went, oh, there's actually all the support, and you had your diagnosis done. And was that the start for you to be a champion and to start all the cool things that you went in that space there?
Yeah, definitely was. So from the CPTSD diagnosis, I was going in my head that there's still something there. I was still trying to fit together these other puzzle pieces. I didn't think it was just PTSD because I was still experiencing other symptoms before what happened to me happened, and I was going back through. I got through the DHB all my mental health records and going, what is missing? And then I started also learning about ADHD, and I was starting to come into the collective zeitgeist of conversation. And as I actually learned what it entailed, it wasn't just a rambunctious white 6-year-old running around throwing tantrums in class or constantly fidgeting. It was a lot more to it. And I looked back and went, wait, hang on. I have clearly exhibited ADHD symptoms for years, maybe as long as I could remember. Why was this not picked up before? And then I reflected back on my school life and went, so that's why teachers were asking me why I was like this, because at the same time, they didn't exactly know what neurodiversity entailed as well, because unfortunately, the education within teaching back then, teaching teachers, or even what neurodiversity was, the conversation wasn't there until maybe 2020, 2021. And so that's why I don't really hold much resentment now towards the adult figures in my life, because how could any of us really know what it truly entailed? And so when I figured that out, I went, oh my goodness, I need to get this sorted. And I was already going through disability services at university to help take care of my mental health. And I brought that up and they said, hey, we'll refer you to inclusive learning. We can also help you out through campus care. So I go to University of Auckland. And we're So the campus care helped me pay for my psychiatrist because I went through public mental health services again to try to get that ADHD diagnosis, but the psychiatrist admitted that she wasn't really in the know about ADHD, and also she just thought it was PTSD. But of course, she didn't pull out any of the official tests or anything, and it's still at this moment, 29th of May, hopefully it changes soon, that adults who didn't get diagnosed as kids could only go through private services, and that is a huge barrier cost. I think for my first session it was around $750, and university, bless them, they helped so much, and they also referred me to inclusive learning as well, and this was during my first year. It took around a year from realization to actually getting diagnosed and medicated. And I started my second year with an ADHD diagnosis. I managed to get into law school, which was nuts, first time. And from there, I felt like my low grade depression that I've always had was lifted. It was lifted. I no longer felt like I was broken. I was fundamentally flawed. I was just a little bit different in how I worked. And instead of working against myself and for the world, as selfish as it is, I started molding myself to the world and stopped bashing myself for not picking up my books until maybe a couple days before an exam or an assignment, or the anxiety when it came to exams too just kind of dropped because I knew I could do it. I have been doing it. There's no need to stress. Just rely on that brain, and remember, you work extremely well under intense pressure. That's a lovely bit of my ADHD. Intense pressure and me go together hand in hand, and it also motivates me. Otherwise, if the deadline is maybe 2 weeks away, it can't even cross my mind. And when you start finding workarounds with certain tasks that were challenging, or even school, and I don't go to university lectures either. I came to realize that being in a crowded hall with hundreds of students at once was actually not really good for my mental health because of my sensory struggles. But my workaround was study at home. What's the big deal? Just because everyone else goes to lectures doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to lectures and put yourself through that if you know that it's going to adversely impact you, and when you know that studying at home has always worked for you before. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm just going to delve into just a little bit because I think what's important is how did you communicate that with your lecturers? And the reason I asked this is because I work in a space, I work at a university as well, and I work with some academics who, how do I put this nicely, who don't seem to understand that, hey,
Yes.
it's okay. So yeah, how did you navigate those conversations?
Okay. So actually, I would like to bring up with a conversation I had with my contract law lecturer. So I was at this time going into lectures, and they were saying, if you're not in this room, you are not a good student. You have to be in this room to be able to learn properly, to be able to do these things and all that. And I kept coming to lectures because I felt really bad, but it got to a point where I was burning out, and it was only maybe weeks 3 or 4. And I went into his office hours and he said, Kartini, you're a good student. I said, I don't feel like I am. I can't do this anymore. I need to be working online. And he came to, and I explained to him my struggles with my neurodiversities and how it affected me. And he went, oh my goodness, I never knew the impacts of the words and how they made you feel, because I know you're a good student. But if this is really adversely affecting you, I'd be able to help change that. And those conversations and explaining why things are the way they are have really opened people's minds. And unfortunately, it's a very common occurrence because for law students having to repeat contract law, 30% fail rate. Yay! But I repeated because I actually got chronic pain from endometriosis. So I had to drop contract during second semester and redo it next year. And when I came back and redid the classes, instead of Ari saying, you're bad students if you don't show up, he says, now, I know that I think most of you need to be here because I just know with the papers and the studies, it's the best way most people learn. But if you have neurodiversity, if you need to wear, sensory aids in the class, or if you need extra resources to help get you through this course, hit me up. And just seeing that night and day change, in a way, it was kind of a blessing to have to repeat that class because I could also see the growth in him and going, he actually listened to me. And it was fantastic. And just many people, I feel, act in such a way because they don't understand maybe the reasonings behind why students don't show up to lectures, why students might choose to wear headphones in class, not because they're listening to music, but more because they're trying to muffle the sounds from that distract them. And I think just having that conversation might have opened some eyes there.
Yes, and again, a clear example of somebody that has done a 180 on what they thought because they listened. They're actually, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I was wrong. Here we go. Bring it on. So, shout out not just to you, but shout out to your contract lecturer for changing his teaching methodology, which is really beautiful.
Absolutely, and it's fantastic. And I'm actually really looking forward to in a couple months' time to be sharing some neurodiversity presentations and how to help neurodivergent learners within the law school to the law faculty. So I'm really looking forward to imparting that knowledge to other law lecturers too, because I have a study group with other neurodivergent law students, and there have been some other complaints about similar situations with other teachers or lecturers too, and hopefully imparting that knowledge will open some minds and go to show that, hey, people just learn a bit differently, and it's not shameful. It's not because they're less intelligent. It's just a difference.
And as you said earlier on, you can't blame people if they don't know. That's fine. But when they do know and they choose not to change, then there's a problem.
Absolutely. And if they choose not to address that, if anyone is hearing this, just know that it's not on you, it's on them. And unfortunately, there are some people that are going to be very inflexible towards how they've always worked or how they've always perceived things. And just give, if they're not really giving you grace, I guess just turn the other cheek and go, it just is.
Yeah. In those instances, I remember one of my colleagues said to me something, and this really links back to Te Māori and Te Reo Māori, where it's not your fault this hasn't happened. It's not your fault for not knowing about neurodiversity or ADHD or neurodivergence. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility once you learn about it.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's where it changes.
Yes, it's once an issue has been flagged to your attention, yes, it's now time to have some self-reflection there and maybe go, what can I do to potentially make, especially if you're an educator, what can I do to ensure that there is no other student that gets left behind or feels like they're too afraid to ask for an accommodation or even a question about the coursework.
100%. And talking about education and talking about educating educators, talk to me about Young Neurodiversity Champions. How did that all start off?
So the Young Neurodiversity Champions was originally a group created by the New Zealand Centre of Gifted Education. So many schools around the country, they have Mind Plus, which is a program outside of students' normal curriculum for students that have been identified as gifted. And from there, they are now named as the Neurodiversity in Education Project, so a bit of a rebrand. But it started with Justine and Matt, fantastic. And from there, we went to Parliament, and it was fantastic. But unfortunately, with the change of the new government, they lost a lot of funding. And so I decided to step up and just take it over. And we did Neurodiversity Hui last month, and we're just about to finalise the ADHD action plan for New Zealand to make diagnosis more accessible for both children and adults. So you don't have to pay out your butt hundreds of dollars just to say, hi, yeah, you're ADHD. There will be more viable pathways there. And we also go from corporations into schools to talk about neurodiversity and to reduce that stigma, to show that, hey, every brain is different. There are some brains that deviate from the norm, and that's neurodivergency. But ultimately, no brain is above the other. And if we work together, we're able to innovate we're able to innovate more. We're able to be respectful more towards one another too, because it goes, once again, ignorance, I feel, breeds unfortunate misunderstandings and hostility towards each other if you don't know why a person is the way they is. And I really do like going into schools too, especially when a teacher goes, hey, we've got this kid with autism who's kind of getting bullied by his peers. Would you be able to come in and just explain what neurodiversity is? And the kids coming out in the end going, oh, okay. Yeah, no, they're not maybe as weird as I thought they were originally. They just work a bit different and communicate a bit different, and it's okay.
That's really, really, really beautiful to hear, and it's really fantastic to hear that this is what you do in amongst all the other things that you do in your world. How's law school going?
Law school, I think it's going great. So I'm back full time right now. I'm after going just part time last year. They're stressful. Don't ask a uni student how they're doing in May or June. That's all I can say. But I'm getting decent grades again. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm just looking forward to the next steps. But at the same time, I'm really terrified to enter into the adult world too after university, because I'm just telling myself now that this is the most free I'm going to be until retirement. So I'm trying to savor that experience. And I've also been going, yeah, I've got 3 semesters left. And I really should be getting into uni life. So went to law camp a couple of weeks ago. Really fantastic. And just I'm now trying to make a concerted effort to make more friends and actually start enjoying university culture, because I didn't get that experience entering into uni at 2021. COVID was COVIDing, and we were online for a good year and a half.
Yeah. So interesting. And I guess Tana, you can come in here because Tana has just experienced that. He's just finished up university, had some time working. So he can actually talk to you about share his experiences, I guess, and what that was like.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think the biggest challenge is just finding that balance between work and your hobbies and your passions that you still, or that you do enjoy. Because I think I was quite fortunate that my workplace was a bit more flexible, but yeah, it's definitely a weird transition to go, I think, also into a place of responsibility. Whereas, yeah, when you're in that university space, you can challenge a lot of people. You can, have more constructive conversations, and there's no real downfall. Not that there's always is downfall in the workplace, but yeah, I think there's more flexibility to have, constructive conversations around why you do certain things a certain way and all those kinds of things. So I think it is, it's an interesting transition going into the workforce, from education itself.
Yeah, I'm nervous for it, but hopefully it goes well. And I'm sure that there are many others other ones of my friends who have just graduated that are feeling that apprehension into stepping outside of university and going to get their first full-time salary jobs.
You know what, Kartini, I increasingly I have this theory that I think university is the most artificial environment that we ever have in our lives. It's university and prisons are very, very similar in my mind
Mm.
because in a prison you go there, you're just stuck in your do, and universities are very similar, and you go, you follow set structure, you do what you do, and then all of a sudden overnight you're set free, and you're like, oh, now what? I have this piece of paper and I'm an adult now. I'm like, actually, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. It's so crazy. And the more I think about it, the more I reflect about, do universities actually prepare anyone for anything? Yes, you have the knowledge, which is great. You do all that kind of stuff there. It's just a reflection thought that I keep thinking about. Is there more that universities can do, especially towards those final years?
Yeah,
It's just a thought process. Yeah.
I definitely reckon that people should be able to go through work experience as part of their degrees.
Yeah.
I know the law school does offer that with internships, but I feel like we should be more hands on in terms of our learning to help prepare us for the outside work world, and not just doing essays and academic writings. Because I'm going to be real, I don't think that's going to help you um, outside of university in most jobs. So definitely want to call for more hands-on learning for sure.
Yeah, it's such an interesting place, and there's different schools of thought, and that's fine. But I think the way the world is changing, it's you got to change the way you think about places of education.
Absolutely.
Schools have changed a little bit. They changed the way they do their curriculum. So yeah. Katina, I've been talking a lot about the things that I know about you, but I'm sure, as we said before we jumped on that, these are things that are out there. But I'm sure there's parts of your life that are that people don't know about. And if you feel that they might add value to your listeners, is there any part of your life that you'd like to share that actually, this is a struggle that I've had, and um, sharing it would help people that might be going through the same struggle?
I'm not too sure. It's weird because I'm an open book, but at the same time, I feel like I'm exceptionally closed off to everyone except my very close friends.
Yeah.
Even if we are friends, I feel like they don't really truly know me. So this is a really hard question to think about as well, because I'm going, what are some things that I would like to share that might help others? I keep going back to, I guess, what happened on Sunday. I got baptized, and I know I don't want to push religion onto everyone, but I think having faith in something that you can't control, you have no control over, really helps um, get you through those dark times, especially when you feel so lonely and isolated, because you know that there is a higher power out there that is still always going to be by your side, no matter how actually lonely and isolated you are on this world. That's one thing I guess I do want to bring in, but
Yeah.
otherwise,
And I think I'm glad you brought that up because I saw that, and I didn't want to bring it up because I want you to be comfortable talking about it.
yeah,
But I do want to talk about that because I think even our last few guests have spoken about the power of faith, and it's not about a specific religion, and it's not about that. It's about the power of faith, and whether it's a named God or whatever it is. Um, a lot of our guests have spoken about the power of faith and how that is, as you said before, when you feel we come in as one people, as one person in the world. We meet all this everyone, but as you said just before, nobody knows anything about you apart from you. Even your partner will know stuff about you, but nobody goes through that there. And when you have faith, it's like it's the force, and sometimes you just give full belief, or you question, go, what's going on here? So I really think it's important for, again, we're not pushing everyone to go become religious, but having faith in something is really something that we take back to actually, there's things we have no control over in the world.
yeah, Absolutely. There's plenty of things we have no control over. And I was talking about this with you with the over the past few weeks,
Yeah.
that I had lost a couple of people in my life to suicide. One I was particularly close with growing up in high school, and we also had very similar struggles. And then hearing the suicide of my of a good friend's little sister too, it oh, it kind of destroyed me. Not fully though, because no matter how dire everything felt and not how numb I went, the only time I did have feeling was when I was reading scripture, praying, or going to church, and it kept my head above water, where I didn't fully crash out and burn. And unfortunate, and I know, had this happened if I was in high school too, losing so many people at once, I might have been in a position where I joined them, but not anymore, because my faith, I truly attribute that to it. No matter how disconnected I felt towards the world or even my loved ones, I still was grounded by that one thing, and it was my faith. And so it can really hold you up in those tumultuous times. And if you are thinking about exploring faith, especially during these times, sorry,
Good.
especially during these tumultuous times, I would strongly suggest go explore, because you never know if you don't look.
Yeah. Now my question for most things is, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. What's the
You can,
worst that can
you can
happen?
just go, cool, this is enough for me. See you later. Thanks for coming. Or you can go, wow, this is something cool. So no, thank you for bringing that up there. I think it's important for our listeners to hear that it's fine. It's all
Yeah,
good. It's all good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, got nothing else to share on that front.
No worries. Tanya, do you have any questions for Kartini?
None that comes to mind. I think it's been an interesting conversation to listen and just engage with.
Yeah, and I want to share so I mean I've been working with lots of people for a long time, but in my current role I have the absolute pleasure of having people on my team that are neurodivergent. And I say it's an absolute pleasure because it's got me changing the way I think. Like every day I go into work and I have to really be actively thinking about the way I use my words, my
Yeah.
actions, my everything has got to change. But then I've done all this training and I've just realized that what works for the margins works for the majority.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to put out too, is that if you accommodate those 20% into everything you do, it actually benefits the other 80% as well, rather than just accommodating for the masses, but marginalizing brains that actually work a bit differently.
Yeah, so it's a real privilege. It's I mean I'm still exploring that world because you don't know what you don't know, but it's a fantastic journey. And the brain is so fascinating. I mean, the brain is nobody knows what's happening up here. We
We're
think we
still
know, and then no idea, no idea, no idea.
we're still learning each and every year, and it's awesome to see the advancements in science. And I can't wait to see where we are in 50 years' time as well.
That's right. I think that's so true. Katina, we've been speaking for almost an hour. Time flies when you're having fun. Um, We have a tradition on our podcast. It's called Basket of Knowledge. And every week we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket for myself, for Tanya, and for our listeners. You've shared quite a bit with us today, which is amazingly beautiful. But is there any specific piece of knowledge that you like to put into our basket for our listeners that you go, this is actually really for you?
Uh, I was taught this by a friend. Don't say you're going to do something, do it, then show the world. Something that I've actually been keeping for the past year or so. And because, you could be all full of ideas and say them, people go, oh, what happened to that? Actually, you don't have to tell everyone, every little bit that you're doing. You just have to show the fruits of it when it comes to fruition.
I love that. You don't have to tell anyone what you're doing. Just do the thing, and the results will speak for themselves,
Exactly.
whatever the results are.
Yeah, whatever
It,
they.
it, it could be bad, it could be good, and hey, they'll speak for themselves.
And yeah, I guess adding to that, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah,
You can learn, but as cliche as that is, I think most cliches have truth to them.
that's right. I mean, our last podcast guest said he just made so many mistakes in creating his product, and he goes, if I didn't make those mistakes, I wouldn't be where I am today. So those cliches are actually quite true, as you say. Beautiful. Kartini, any last words before we say farewell for tonight's episode?
No departing words, but I would just like to say thank you so much, Rajesh and Tane. It was really lovely to be on here, and thank you so much for listening to me. It means the world.
No worries. Thank you so much for sharing your story. There's so much in the story here. There's, the viewpoint from, hey, politics, yes, no, maybe change my idea, unions, yes, no, change my idea, the bullying that you went through, the reality of the learning styles, the educating your lecturers, the educating yourself. It's really beautiful to hear that because, and as you said before, it's just a learning journey. So thank you for sharing that, and I can't wait to see what happens. I'm not saying the next year because when I see all the stuff that you do, I can't wait to see what happens in the next 6 months for you because that's how impactful you are with the stuff that you do. So yeah, thank you for doing what you do for the world.
No worries, and I don't intend to peak until my mid-40s, so watch out, guys.
Watch out, world. Here we come. Thank you, Kartini, for jumping on today. For listeners, hopefully you have learned something new today. If you haven't learned something new, go back and listen again because you probably fell asleep, which is not a good thing to do on a podcast. Till next time, don't forget to be happy, find a reason to smile, and don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. Till next time, ka kite everybody. Bye, everybody. Peace.